Hi, I'm Emily. Welcome to episode 6 of Holding the Sticks, a hockey-themed fiber arts podcast. Welcome to my craft room here in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina. It is Monday, January the 14th, 2013. And if you would like to contact me, I am Shanti Dragon on Ravelry and Emily3022 on Plurk and Twitter. So let's get right on into the show. Just a little bit of administrative stuff today, not too much. I'm still working on getting the podcast up on iTunes. I am hearing that that will require a paid subscription to Blip, and we'll have to see. I'm going to try a couple more things, but thank you, Sarah SF on Ravelry, for jumping in and letting me know that Blip is not the clearest of companies, I guess, when it comes to tech support, unless I haven't tried speaking to them personally or anything like that, but hopefully I'll have that resolved soon, and I'll let you know when that happens on the group. So, speaking of the group, I'm very thankful to everyone who's been participating on my Ravelry group. I can't tell you how much it makes my day to look and see on Ravelry that there's activity going on the group. So thanks so much. Really enjoying the conversations that are going on there. I wanted to let you know that if you need to get in contact with me, I gave you my contact information a minute ago, but in general, on Twitter, I generally talk more about hockey. On Plurk, I usually talk more about the knitting things and other general things in my life. There is some crossover. If you follow me on Plurk, you probably noticed that last weekend I was talking all about the hockey, so but I couldn't help it because the training camps had just opened and everything. We'll talk more about that in third period. So, I am wearing my Shady Grove shawl today. That's what I call it. It's not the name of the pattern. And I call this my Shady Grove shawl because I cast off this shawl the same day that I heard that Doc Watson had passed away. And Doc Watson is a bluegrass legend, and one of the songs I always remember hearing him sing and play is Shady Grove. So I named the shawl for him. It is the Woodland Shawl by Nicole Lohr. And I used handspun to knit it. It was Urban Gypsy Superwash Merino Roving in the Andrea's BFF colorway. I think it spun up to about a fingering weight. I believe it was a 2-ply. Shame on me, I should know this, but I knitted this last summer. So it is one of my very favorite things I've ever knitted, and I'm just glad that the weather is such that I can wear it today. It was very warm over the weekend, so just this little shawl is just enough. I don't need a big sweater or anything like that. It's starting to get cooler now, but it's still just about right for this little shawl. So, alright, let's get right on into the first period. Welcome to the second period and some developing play going on. I've got a few things on the needles. I didn't finish anything this week, so there's no she shoots, she scores. But that happens sometimes, as you all know. Knitting doesn't happen overnight, usually. So the first thing I have on my needles in developing play is the Beekeeper's quilt that I have mentioned those last several podcasts. I just got 2 more little honeycombs done for that, or hexie puffs if you prefer. And this is one, and actually I just realized that this is made with the same yarn that I used in the shawl here. So this is my hand spun. I think that's funny. When I was binding this one off, I don't know how, but I missed a couple of stitches, so I've got those holding on. I figure when I seam these little hexie puffs together that I'll pick those stitches up, secure them that way. So there's one, and here's the other one. And this was some yarn that was sent to me by a friend, and so that always makes it special when you get little bits of yarn from friends to put in a blanket. This one came out a little large, so I'm thinking this may have been closer to a sport weight than a fingering weight. But hopefully once I put them all together, it just won't really matter that much. There'll be a little bit of variation, and you know, it's supposed to be kind of a puffy looking blanket anyway, so if it's you know, a little squashed or whatever, I think it'll still be okay. We'll see. It will probably be several years before I try and put them all together, unless I decide to make a smaller blanket. My goal is actually to make mine a full-size bed, like a quilt for a full-size bed. So we'll see if my resolve sticks for that. The second project on my needles is the Knit Sampler Afghan by Coats & Clark. And the Beekeeper's quilt was designed by Tiny Owl Knits. And I'm doing that on size 4 needles or 3.5 millimeter with all kinds of different yarn. Like I said, second thing on my needles is the Knit Sampler Afghan, and that's by Coats & Clark. I'm using Red Heart soft yarn for that in 4 colors, navy, grape, teal, and berry. Size 8 needles or 5 millimeter needles, and this is a knit along with the Apple Blossom and You podcast. So having a really good time with that. I finished a square, and I guess this could have been She Shoots, She Scores, but I feel like when the blanket's actually done, that will be the finished project. But let's see here. I had to kind of modify this one a little bit. I've got little ends sticking out. That's no good. But anyway, yeah, I had a hard time hiding my ends on this one. Oh, there we go. That's why. I was looking on the wrong side. But still, you want your wrong side on a blanket to look okay. I'll show you in a minute, and maybe y'all will have some suggestions, because I have to do another square like this. Let's hold it back here so you can see it. There it is. So I really like it. I like the way these colors play together. The picture that I have on my Ravelry project page, the colors didn't come out correct at all. This is close, I think, from what I can see. If y'all could see how I have my podcast recording studio set up, you would probably laugh. I'm using a Canon SureShot digital camera. It is a camera made for still pictures. And so I can't see the screen of it. So in order to be able to see what I'm doing on the podcast, I have set up like a pillow behind the camera with a makeup compact, so I can see myself in the mirror of the makeup compact. So that's why I'm always like trying to look and see. But there's that. And let me show you the back here real quick. I think I've done the best I can do, honestly. But this is what I'm kind of not upset about, but a little bit iffy about. I'm not real thrilled with those little ends sticking out all over the place. So if anybody has any suggestions on how to make that better, then let me know, because I always like for things to look finished and professional when I can. The next project on my needles in developing play is my Mork sweater, and I'm so excited about this sweater. I think it's going to be wonderful. It was designed by Julia Farwell Clay, and it's going to look like this when it's finished. I'm using Barocco Ultra Alpaca. I don't know why I have so much trouble saying the name of that yarn. And a size 6 or 4 millimeter needle. This is a knit along with the Knittables podcast. And I usually don't knit something just because of a knit along, but it just so happens that right now all the things I want to be knitting are things that are going on in knit alongs and other podcasts. So the power just flickered here. I don't know if you noticed that, but hopefully we can keep going here. Like I said, it's a very rainy day here in the mountains. Alright, here's what I have on my Mork so far. This is the back of the sweater, right here. And this is done all in pieces. Now I really enjoy knitting sweaters in the round and as little seaming as possible, but I have found that the sweaters that are knit in pieces and seamed together seem to be more flattering on me. They have more support, not more support, but they tend to hold their shape better. And that's even more important when you're knitting with an alpaca yarn. So let's see if we get this back here. I've just started, this is mostly just ribbing, and I have just started at the top with the cable pattern. Excuse me. So really excited about that. And I can't wait to see what it looks like done. I'm a little worried that I'm making a size that's too large. As you all know, I've been losing weight, and it's hard for me to know what size to knit or what kind of ease I need in a sweater now that I'm not the same shape that I used to be. I always used to err on the side of a little bit of positive ease just because I wanted certain parts of my shape to be hidden. And now that may not be so much the case, but I'm knitting the 42 bust on this, and that's got quite a bit of positive ease, but I'm worried about the ribbing pulling in and accentuating certain parts of my anatomy that maybe I don't want to have accentuated at the moment. Because even though I'm smaller, I still have weird lumps and bumps, so y'all know how that goes. But hopefully that will, the ribbing will pull it in just enough that it'll be the right size. I'm not a big fan of having to block sweaters. If I have to mess with them too much, they're just not going to get worn. So I don't plan on really blocking this heavily. You know, I'll wash it and lay it out in the shape that I want it, but if I have to pin something out, then it's just not going to be worn, or it's not going to look quite right. So that's where I'm coming from on that. Of course, after I finish the back there, I'll have to do the front and the 2 sleeves, and I think there's an I-cord edging around the collar, which I've never done before. I'm super excited about that. The 4th project that I'm working on is the Easy Beanie by Tatiana Gunther. And I'm knitting this for me to wear when I run. As warm as the weather has been, it's not going to stay that way, so I know I'm going to need something on my head here. I've been wearing a slouchy hat made with fingering weight and MCN, which is wonderful, but you know, with that cashmere content, it's a little too warm. So this is what I have so far on the Easy Beanie. Just a little bit of ribbing so far. You start with a size 2 3mm needle, and then when I get to the main body of the hat, it will be, I'm sorry, it just looked like it wasn't recording, but it is. When you get to the main body of the hat, it will be size 4 3.5mm. I'm knitting this with Lorna's Laces Sport Mate yarn in the Desert Flower colorway. I absolutely love this color of yarn. When I first started running back in the spring, the first pair of running shoes that I bought were bright pink and turquoise. Here's a picture of them. And this yarn actually is a perfect match pretty much to those shoes. And so I really fell in love with the yarn. And even though that first pair of running shoes only lasted me about 6 months, and I now have a new pair and they're like purple, I still love that color of yarn. And I wanted a hat that would help me be more visible when I'm running, because most of my running clothes are dark colors, and that should hopefully stand out when I am out on the road running. And like I said, that was designed by Tatiana Gunther. It will hopefully work out well for me. I really like the slouch on a hat because it makes a little pocket of warm air there for my head. And you know, as short as my hair is now, I need all the warmth I can get on my head. So hopefully, I'm also hoping I'll have some left over of this so that I can make a headband as well, so that I could wear the headband or the hat. So there's that. I'm excited to have that finished. We do have a little bit of Spinorama today, so that's exciting. I broke the spinning wheel out yesterday, dusted her off. Poor Rosie hasn't had much love in the past several weeks, but I decided yesterday was the day and that I needed to get another skein of yarn done for my spackle sweater. This is the same thing I've been showing all along with my spinning, and hopefully I'll wrap this up soon so my spinning will be more interesting. It's another skein of the 3-ply Knit Picks Wool of the Andes Roving in the Merlot color. And this is for the Knit Girls 2012 Spackle Spin Along Knit Along. They've got a 2013 one going on now, so I know I'm way behind schedule, but that's okay. I think I have 5 or 6 more of these to finish. And when I say that, I've got 2 plies finished for all of those 5 or 6 skeins, but I need to spin the 3rd ply and then actually ply them together for each of those. So it sounds like an awful lot, but it's not. I probably already have enough of the yarn finished that I could knit a sweater. I kind of overshot. Of course, I was heavier too when I started the sweater, so I ordered 2 pounds of the Wool of the Andes Roving, and that should be enough to knit any sweater that I want. So that's exciting because I'm not sure what weight it's going to be. Right now it looks about a sport weight maybe, but when I wash it and thwack it, it may bloom out a little bit and be more of a worsted. So after I figure out what weight the yarn is and do some gauge swatches, then I will decide which pattern to knit with it. I have an idea of what I'd like to knit, but I don't want to get too attached to that. So that is it for the first period in the zone, and let's get on into the second period. Okay, let's get right on into the second period and come on into the training room. It's been a good week for me. I'm so happy to be able to report that. I've had a couple of rough ones as far as fitness goes. As I told you all last week, I have begun Éowyn's Challenge, which is basically tracking mileage parallel to the journey that Frodo Baggins took to Rivendell in The Lord of the Rings. So it's working out really well for me. It's kind of fun. You can find more information on Éowyn's Challenge at aowenchallenge.net. Let me show you. I have Sock Bunny from Sock Bunny Knit and Fit podcast kind of gave me the idea, and she actually has a contest going on for tracking your fitness. You're supposed to make a poster to help yourself track your fitness and make goals along the way to encourage yourself and motivate yourself to do more. So what I did was I just printed out the list from aowenchallenge.net, and here it is. You probably can't really see it. I'll get it a little closer, maybe you can see it. Nothing really exciting. Like I said, I just printed the list out from aowenchallenge.net. When I complete miles, I just use a little pink colored pencil and color it in, and I sort of make notes over here about how much mileage I've actually done. So I did about 7 miles last week. That's really good. Most of those were running. So the weather cleared up and got warm, and I have been out running. I only had to go on the stationary bike once this week, which is awesome. I would much rather be out running or walking. At least 1.5 miles of that was just walking my dog with my husband, and it's so nice to get outside. I feel way better for it, so yay. So I have, the way I'm doing my rewards is the Éowyn Challenge is broken down into days. Like on day 1, Frodo walked 18 miles. So when I get to the end of day 1, my reward is going to be new pajamas, because I'm going on a trip soon that I will need some nice pajamas. We'll be sharing a hotel room with some friends. I'll talk more about that. It's probably in the coming weeks about where we're going and everything. But need some new pajamas. I'd love to have some pajamas that I really, really like. So, you know, I just have kind of sloppy ones right now. You know how that goes. So that is really motivating me onward. I worked out every day but 2, I believe, last week. I always take Mondays off as a rest day because my work is physical and then I'm working out. So I think it's important for my body to have a day to rest. And then Saturday we had a friend visiting, so I didn't work out that day. So there is the fitness part. Another thing I have done for fitness, just for myself personally, I play a couple of silly little computer games, or games on my phone really. And I'm not really huge into them or anything, but I play Tapfish and I play Heyday, which is a lot like Farmville. So the rule I have instituted for myself is that I am not allowed to play any games until my fitness is done for the day. So, or if I'm on the stationary bike, I can play while I'm on the bike. So that's really helped me to, number one, cut back on the time I'm spending on these games, because it's just a time suck. And it's also helped me be motivated to get on the bike on those days when I can't get out and run. So that's been helpful for me too. So for self-care, I just want to preface this by saying that I'm a massage therapist. I'm not a mental health professional, but I think that this is an important thing, an important subject to talk about. And it's something that I deal with a lot in my work and, of course, in my personal life. I wanted to talk today a little bit about stress. So, like I said, I'm not a mental health professional. If you're having extreme problems with stress in your life, I really highly recommend seeing a mental health professional. They can be so helpful, and I know from experience that they can do amazing things. So, with that said, let's talk a little bit about stress. I have 5 tips for managing stress. I know so many people right now who are going through tough times. They're very stressed out. I have a couple of situations in my own life that are causing me a lot of stress at the moment. And nothing that y'all need to worry about. If you want to say prayers for me or think about me, that would be great. But the stress that I'm under will resolve itself eventually. I just hope that it will resolve itself in a good way, just like most negative stress that we have in life. So, I'm sorry, excuse me. So, my 5 tips for managing stress. The first one is to get to the root of what's bothering you and take what action you can. So, if you're worrying about something and stressed out about it, really take a minute to sit and think what it is that's stressing you out. If there's any action you can take to make that better, then just do it. Just get it out of the way. You'll feel so much better for it. If there are things you can't do, if you're like me, you may wake up in the middle of the night and be stressed out, and there's not a whole lot you can do in the middle of the night. So it really is helpful to just write things down that you'll need to do the next day to resolve this stressful situation. The second tip is, depending on what kind of stress you're under, you will either want to try and take some quiet time out for yourself, or find an activity that will distract your mind from obsessing over the stress that you're under. So if you're under the kind of stress that is the go, go, go all the time kind of stress, take 5 minutes, 10 minutes, if you can take an hour, wonderful, just to be quiet and relax. If your knitting calms you, then maybe you can knit some, put some nice quiet calming music on, and take deep breaths and just let go of all of those things. If you are having the kind of stress that it goes round and round and round and round in your mind, then it's really helpful when I get that to do something to distract myself. And in order to distract myself, it has to be something that will really fully occupy my mind. Color work, knitting color work, things that I have to put my whole thought process into. Reading a book can help me, or watching a movie. I've been really enjoying Downton Abbey this season. Just do something like that and distract yourself. Now, that doesn't mean that you can kind of leave reality behind, because that goes back to the first one. Take what action you can to help make the situation better, because if you just use that escapism, distracting yourself all the time, then nothing's ever going to get better. The third tip I have for managing stress is to write things out with pen and paper. And I say with pen and paper because The act of writing, physically writing, slows down your thought processes enough that it might help you think things through a little bit better. This is very helpful for me. Of course, I've always loved writing with pen and paper. Even when I'm writing fiction works, I enjoy, sometimes I really want the pen and paper. It helps me think things through better, like I said. Fourth one is probably one of the most important things when you are experiencing a lot of stress. Make sleep, healthy eating, and exercise a priority in your life. These are things you need to do to take care of yourself. If you're not getting the proper nutrition, the proper rest, and the proper exercise, you're not going to be able to take care of the problem. So it's, you know, especially a lot of women these days, we're always trying to take care of everybody else. You've got to take care of yourself first. It's like the age-old thing with the oxygen masks in the airplane. You've got to put yours on first before you can put it on your child. Because if you don't get yours on and you pass out, who's going to help your child? So that's something that's very, very important, and something that I have to remind myself of pretty often when I'm so stressed out, to take care of yourself and to do the healthy things that you need to do for yourself. Tip number 5 for managing stress is to keep in mind that most of those things that you're worried about happening, those what ifs, will never happen. I have made it a policy for myself to try not to worry about things until they happen. Now, sometimes you know that if there's something coming down the pike, if you have a budget and your budget goes into the negative, of course, you know that's going to happen. But if you start worrying about things that you cannot control, just wait and see. Wait it out and see what happens. You never know what tomorrow will bring. That meeting you're worried about may get canceled. That horrible thing that you're worried about happening will probably not happen. It's just a good idea to kind of keep things in perspective and remember that thinking of all the what ifs over and over and over again obsessively is not going to help you. Being prepared is one thing, but obsessing is another thing entirely. So, I bet you thought I was going to say go get a massage for your stress. That wasn't one of my 5, but that can be helpful as well. Of course, I'm biased. I am a massage therapist, so it really does help to get a massage. It's been clinically proven to help balance your stress hormones, all of your hormones really, lowers your blood pressure. It helps with your circulation, and you'll come out of it feeling just 1,000 times better, unless you're the kind of person who's kind of weirded out by being touched, and I know there are people like that out there. So that's my little bonus way to manage your stress. Go get a massage. So let's get right on into the third period and some hockey talk. Okay, it's time to drop the puck for the third period and a little bit of hockey talk. I just realized that my camera angle was a little off kilter and I fixed it, so apologize for that. I don't think it's anything that's going to affect the quality of the viewing experience or anything. It's just a little weird looking. Sorry about that, but it's fixed now for the most part. Anyway, hockey talk. My Checkers have won 5 straight, which is awesome. And it's even more awesome because the last 2 of those 5 in a row came after the NHL lockout ended, and they lost 6 players who got called up to go to the NHL training camp for the Hurricanes. That's a lot of guys to lose, and you know, the ones that are called up to the NHL training camp are usually the ones that are playing really well, the team leaders. And I was pretty worried when those 6 got called up, and you know, they had a game the next night, but they won. We've got a great team this year. I'm so proud of them. It was kind of funny listening to the game because when those 6 players got called up to Raleigh to do the Hurricanes training camp, they had to call 6 players up from the Florida Everblades, which is another league down from the Major League. And I was familiar with some of those guys, but to hear these names being announced on the radio, I had a hard time figuring out which team had the puck sometimes, because I wasn't used to hearing those names on my checkers. So the only bad thing that happened as far as the checkers goes is that the player that I follow and have been rooting for years to make the Hurricanes, Zach Dalpe, did not get called up to the Hurricanes training camp. I was pretty livid, actually, for him. He's been playing so well. He's had 2 points or more for the last 5 games. I can't remember that stat, but it's a team record. Apparently, a team leading. It's not a team record, but he leads the team in this point streak that he's on. He works hard. He's a nice guy. I've met him a couple of times and have heard from other people who have met him that he's just very personable and very nice. Good, hard-working kid. And I was so angry when he was still with the Checkers, when the others had been called up to training camp. But what I am hearing from Hurricanes brass is that just because he wasn't called up for training camp doesn't mean he won't be on the opening night roster for the Hurricanes. So here's hoping. Speaking of the Hurricanes, they've already started trading players. Jim Rutherford did say that there would be a bit of a shake-up. He's trying to trade some players to make room for the young guys coming up. That's another reason I was so upset about Zach Dalpe not getting the call, because it's his turn, it's his time, this should be his year. So they've already started trading players. They traded Brian Boucher to the Flyers. They traded Anthony Stewart to the Kings. Neither one of those was a huge surprise to me. I'm going to miss Anthony Stewart. He's a really fun Twitter follow and a real big personality on the team, and he was a real leader for the younger guys on the team. Seemed like the younger guys were always hanging out at Anthony's house. So I know that's going to be a big loss in the locker room as far as, you know, that personality goes. But I wish him all the best in LA, and I wish Brian Boucher all the best with the Flyers. I know they sent him straight to their minor league team, so I know he's coming back from some injuries. That will probably be a good thing for him. It looks to me like our team, the Hurricanes, are getting physically bigger. That it looks like Rutherford is trying to get a more physical, big, hard-hitting team. So that's going to be really interesting for me, since I'm more of a fan of the skilled part of the game and not the kind of goonish, rough part of the game, although it has its place. It wouldn't be hockey without that. So that's what's going on with my 2 teams. There's a lot going on with every team. I would love to hear what's going on, you other NHL fans or even AHL fans. I'd love to hear what's going on with your teams as well. You know, I love to hear everything that's going on in the hockey world. So I did want to touch briefly on my response to the lockout. I know I went from how do I respond to this a few episodes ago to last episode just being really excited about the NHL season starting. I actually made a post on my group about this in the Lockout is Over thread, and if you want to read that, that probably expresses it better than I will out loud. I've always been kind of a better writer than I have been a speaker. But the decision that I came to is that as a fan, I am jumping back in to be a fan of my team. First of all, because I don't want the businesses and employees of the teams and other people whose livelihoods are affected by the NHL to suffer for something that they had no power over. So in other words, to go to a game at the arena is providing a lot of jobs. Well, not personally me, but to have hockey games in an arena provides a lot of jobs for the people selling hot dogs and beer and merchandise and everything. The one thing that I have decided to do is that I'm not going to buy any merchandise this season, which is actually a pretty big deal because the Hurricanes have marked off all of their merchandise 50%. And if you think about buying a jersey, that's huge. If you buy a personalized NHL jersey, it's going to run you about $250. So that's a huge savings if you mark 50% off of that. So let me tell you, I was tempted when I heard that to save up my pennies and nickels and dimes and buy a jersey, but I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to buy any NHL merchandise until next year. I'm not a big merchandise buyer anyway, but you know, I buy little things here and there. So that's really the only thing I've decided to do as far as a protest. I don't know if I can even call that a protest. But the reason I've decided also, the second reason, is that hockey is a sport and it's supposed to be, it's entertainment. And if I'm going to put energy into protesting or raising a ruckus over something, I don't feel right that it would be over a sport. And I'm not judging anybody who is raising a ruckus. You know, I am the kind of fan who doesn't spend a lot of money on hockey. If you are a season ticket holder, you have every right to be up in arms and upset that you've been treated badly, because that's a lot of money to invest in a team to buy season tickets. But for me, who goes to maybe 1 or 2 games a year and buys maybe a t-shirt or a jersey, I buy a jersey about every 3 years, 3 or 4. T-shirt maybe every year, and I'm not putting a lot of money into this, so it's not, I don't feel like I need to be up in arms about it. So that's just how I feel about it. And the thread in my group called "The Lockout is Over" would be a great place to respond to that if you would like to. Of course, I don't think I need to even ask this of you, but make sure you keep it respectful. I know hockey fans can be very passionate, so always keep things respectful. So let's get into some Hockey 101. I'm going to pause it here real quick just to reset my camera again. So, Hockey 101. I had a question from Zilla Latte. I hope I'm saying that correctly. She's Kelly from Washington. Her Ravelry name is Zilla Latte. She wanted to know, why do they swap players around sometimes when they drop the puck? So what she's talking about is a face-off. Face-off will happen either at the beginning of the game, the beginning of the period, or after play has been stopped for whatever reason. Sometimes when you're watching, the referee or the linesman will come to drop the puck between the 2 players. Those 2 players are typically the centers, each center from each team. So, you know, I talked about the 3 forwards on each team. Those 3 forwards are composed of a center, a left wing, and a right wing. So the centers are the ones that take the face-offs. Well, if the center is out of position, either one of the guys are out of position, they're supposed to be positioned a certain way when the puck drops. Or if there's any physical contact between them or any of the other players on the ice before the puck drops. Or if the centers refrain from putting their sticks down on the ice before the puck drops, then that is when the referee will, or the linesman will say, you have to leave the face-out circle, and one of the wings will come in to take the face-off instead. Now the centers are typically pretty good at taking face-offs. They practice it a lot. Whereas the wings, they practice it some and they're okay at it, but you really want your center to be the one taking the face-off so that you can win the face-off. So that's why it's not a huge deal, but it's a big deal. Now if your team gets tossed out of the face-off circle twice in one face-off, then you will be assessed a minor penalty and the other team will go on the power play for 2 minutes. So I think it's kind of funny that my little sister always had the theory that before we knew why they were throwing guys out of the face-off circle, she would always kind of do a voiceover with the referee saying, "Oh, you had the chicken with garlic for dinner, get out of here," you know? So, I mean, it really, if you're just watching, it just seems that random. Every once in a while, they just throw a guy out, another guy comes in. So, Zilla Latte, I hope that answers your question. It was a short Hockey 101 today. Next week, I will talk about the people on the ice, or the people that help a hockey game go on. So I'm going to talk about the on-ice officials, the off-ice officials, coaches, trainers, and those kinds of people. So that will give you an idea, and then we will get into more of the how the game is played. So I'm looking forward to that a lot. All right, that's it for our hockey talk. Let's get into some post-game chatter. Okay, time for a little post-game chatter. So what do you talk about when you want to make small talk? The weather, of course. The weather here has been so strange. Has it been where you are too? I live in the Blue Ridge Mountains of North Carolina, so it's part of the Appalachian Mountain Range. We say Appalachian here locally. And last weekend, temperatures were in the 60s. We got near 70 yesterday. Now typically, you think North Carolina is a southern state, and yes, it is warmer in the lowlands. It doesn't get very cold. Well, occasionally it does, but it stays pretty warm in the lowlands or the flatlands of North Carolina. But up here in the mountains, we have weather that's more on par with the Midwest, the lower part of the Midwest. We don't typically get huge blizzards or 3 feet of snow or anything like that, but we typically have cold temperatures, down in the 20s and the teens Fahrenheit, and we typically have a couple of good sized snowstorms, 6 inches to 1.5 feet every year. But we've had barely any snow this year, or last year for that matter, and the temperatures have been very, very warm overall. So it's a little creepy, a little weird. I don't like it at all. I actually am one of those strange people that love it when it snows. I prefer not to have to drive around in it, but I will if I have to. But yeah, really strange. And then I hear that it's really cold in places like Las Vegas. So yeah, I don't know what's going on. So yesterday I got all of the Christmas decorations packed up. It's really nice to have a little extra space in my house. I may put my exercise bike back out in the living room instead of right here next to my camera where it's sitting. I'll be able to watch Hurricanes games on television while I'm on the bike if I do that, but I'll decide that later. I've been exposed to a lot of sick people at work lately. I've had clients come in with colds and hopefully not flu, but the flu's super bad this year. Make sure you're taking care of yourselves out there. Wash your hands a lot. Take your vitamins. I've been drinking my Emergen-C. It's like a powdered drink that you mix in with water with lots of vitamin C and B12 in it. So far, so good. Knock on wood, I've been healthy all along. I'm also the one in my office who goes through and wipes everything down with Clorox. So I think that comes from all the years I worked at the hospital. I do it at least once a day. Go through the whole office, wipe down all the doorknobs and the keyboards and the telephones and all the little volume knobs in every room and everything. So hopefully that will keep us all as healthy as we can be. If you have a massage scheduled and you're not feeling well, it's really best to reschedule it, especially if you have a fever. Massage actually is not the best thing for you when you're sick. It can actually exacerbate your symptoms. So, you don't want to get your massage therapist sick either. So, yeah, just call and cancel, reschedule. Most places are super understanding about that. They would rather have you do that than come in sick. So, I guess that is it for my soapbox for the week. And I think that's it for this episode. So, until next time, may your knitting, crocheting, spinning projects, and your favorite hockey teams stay out of the penalty box. Bye-bye.